Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Getaina Amarcia. It's precious chain for me to be your master of ceremony on this beautiful day in our special event, the second day of World Class Research Program 2020, with them beyond the research. I would like to say my honor to the head of International Business and Economic Program, Mr. Talbani Farlian, SAMA, my honor to Dr. Teguh Roli Ilhamsyah Putra, SAMM, and my honor to Mr. Gordon Kenneth Studebaker. And my honor to all First of all, let me thank our God Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the Lord of the world, the Lord of the universe, who has given us His blessing and mercy, so we can attend and participate in this event without any obstacle at all. Praise and salutation upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the last messenger, the best figure of this universe, the person who was able to save us from Jahiliyyah era. Ladies and gentlemen, before we come to the main session, let us start this by prayer. So we hope the event that we'll hold on this day will run well without any obstacle. Praying will be led by Muhammad Asrar Farabi. To Muhammad Asrar Farabi, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. لا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. يا ربنا لك الحمد ولك الشكر كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا ولوالدينا ولمشايخنا ولجميع المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم إنا نسألك سلامة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة وعافية في الجسد وزيادة في العلم وبركة في الرزق وتوبة قبل الموت ورحمة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت والنجاة من النار والعفو عند الحساب برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذريتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا أوزعنا أن نشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علينا وعلى والدينا وأن نعمل صالحا ترضاه وأدخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون. الحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Well, thank you to our brother Muhammad Asrar Farabi. May Allah give us guidance and help. Amin. The next agenda is the show you have been waiting for, the talk show with Mr. Gordon Canston Baker. The talk show will be guided by Mr. Dr. Teguh Ilham Syahputra as our moderator for today. Before we start, let me introduce to you Dr. Rolly is a lecturer at the Faculty of Economics and Business, Shah Kuala University, and he's the strategic management. Academically, he has published many articles in international journals and presented his research at international conferences in several countries in the world. In practical terms, he has sufficient experience in various types of organization, and until now he has served as a trainer, consultant, and advisor both of government institution and business corporation. Well, now we would like to welcome Dr. Teguh Roli Ilham Syaputra SAMM and our special speaker for today, Mr. Gordon Canston Baker. Time and place is yours.
Do you hear my sound? Do you hear my voice?
Yes,
Yes,
of course.
Okay, okay. Yeah, unfortunately, Professor Menkyu from Harvard University, as one of our keynote speakers, cannot be here attending this event with us right now because of reason. But grateful we still have Mr. Studebaker as a main keynote speaker for today and the one and only among us. Thank you, Mr. Studebakers, for providing your time. So I'm gonna read Mr. Studebaker's CV for the audience. Just a summary, okay? His name is Gordon Ken Studebaker, and he is chief of party experience and hands-on private sector SME development experience in 50 countries involving conflict, post-conflict, post-communism, and disaster circumstance in multiple sectors and hundreds of value chains. He is collaboratively with stakeholders created and manage value change driven competitiveness enhancing initiatives. He advised governments, commercial associations, urban and rural SMEs, financial institutions, communities, and hundreds of enterprises on firm, sector, area, and country competitiveness. He possesses expertise, drive, creativity in outreach, partnering, and network building that produce concrete results. So for Mr. Studbakers, we can't wait to see your presentations. With pleasure, we give you the time and space for now. Giving a place for Mr. Studbakers. Hello, Mr. Studbakers. Studbakers. Hello. Is he out of the Zoom committee? You need to check.
He is here, sir.
Oh, yeah. I think he's preparing.
Please try to help the open his
Host.
unmute.
Unmute. So I think the committee has is a host right now, not me. Who's the committee?
Video. Okay, start my video.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I started my video. Oh, we're there. What happened?
Yes, you did, Mr. Ron.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. I hear you, but
Okay, can't see me, right?
I can't see you, right?
You can hear but not see.
Yeah.
I can
Ah,
see.
Yeah, yeah. That's you.
okay. Yeah, that is not, that is, I can verify, that's me.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, thank you very much
Yeah.
for allowing me to have this opportunity to be with you this morning.
Yeah.
Before you all got on, it was Dr. Raleigh and I talking, and I told him I wish I were with you. And Talabani, I would love to be personally with you. It is so cold in Washington right now, and it is so difficult. We're waiting for Donald Trump to leave and things to get better. But we don't want to make this political. I would also like to thank Mohammed, how do I say, Siddiqui?
Siddiqui.
Siddiqui. He helped me last night on some things, and so I really appreciate it. I hope I get a chance to see him. It's nice to see everyone. Thank you for coming out. I hope it's not too early for you. It's late in our day, but we'll do the best we can. And before I start my talk about beyond research, there's a few things we got to get through before we talk about research. One is I would like to, in addition to what Dr. Raleigh read, and tell me if I talk too fast, okay? Because I tend to get excited, and if I talk too fast, go like this to me or something, or go like this. In any event, where am I? Can you see me? Can you see me, Dr.
Yeah, yeah.
Raleigh?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't see myself on it. Okay. I want to tell you how I came into development and give you just a brief background, very brief, about how I ended up where I am. A long time ago, before any of you were born, to date it is 1975, I became the chief consultant for an investment company in the state of Washington in the United States, made up of the biggest industrial corporations and the biggest banks in the state came together to form a consulting enterprise to try to direct investment into underserved and poor areas in the state of Washington. And I became, as chief consultant, the guy that did all the financial modeling and actually handled doing all the financial forecasts. And when I say we're investment attracting, we are specifically bringing money and winning loans and equity investment into enterprises. So it's not general investment. We're very specific. And so I had to put together all these business plans, do all the modeling. I had to make these presentations to these bankers who, how to say this, you looking at me and I've got gray hair and I'm old. Well, I swear the bankers that I had to deal with had less gray hair, but were older, and you had to deal with these guys, and they never smiled. They were all men, and they were all white men, and a lot of them didn't know what we were trying to do. They didn't want to give us the money, but we won the money, and we did a great job. We ended up building a portfolio of about 45 businesses. As a result of my work there, and we're going to get real quick through here, I got a federal contract with our federal government, with the Small Business Administration, to do the same kinds of things regionally for two states, Oregon and Washington. As a result of that, I put a lot of money attracted a lot of money to some small banks that were making loans to underserved areas. That contract that I had with the Small Business Administration led to a nationwide contract with the Department of Treasury. And I worked in about 80 different cities in the United States to bring money into banks and to help to show them how to make loans and how to reach out and find businesses. That's what gave me my development background. Then I actually gave up my consulting contract and went to work for the Treasury, to work with small banks around the country. I did that for about 6 years. Then an opportunity opened up during the Ronald Reagan administration to try to build the economies of Central America and the Caribbean. That's 30 countries about. And I became the head of that. And so I went into these countries, and was my first time overseas to really try to understand what was holding back these countries, what was holding back their business, what kinds of things did they need, and how we could really help them. And it was a very frustrating experience because the US government wanted to do big things with speeches and things like that. And to me, that didn't help at all. All that did was build expectations and nothing happened. So I got into the business, we call it retail. I worked with individual businesses in 30 countries to try to help find them customers, find them financing, find investors, show them how to do their products better, make their products better, make their doors better, make their shoes better, make their dresses better, make their coffins better. Whatever they made, we wanted to help them. And we did okay, but it was, again, frustrating because it was so challenging constantly all the time. Then from that, I started my own business from 1991 or 2 on, and worked mainly with private sector businesses that were doing business overseas. About 1999, I got a big contract for 4 years to work in a country in South America by the name of Guyana. That's what led me to where I am today. Ever since then, I've been independent and I've been going around the world, contracting myself out to a lot of AID stuff, private business, some governments, and then to different companies. So, and that's what took me to Aceh in 2005, but right after the tsunami. But let me say this now. So we're going to talk about, that's how come I'm here I am. Now we're going to talk about this little thing beyond research. But again, a couple things. You can't get to doing research unless you get to the people that count. And development, in my view, and this is a simple explanation, is all about enhancing competitiveness. It's about empowering enterprises and businesses, which is people, to be able to have more money so they can make their own decisions by themselves for their family and that affect their own economic situation rather than being dependent on outside people to do that. And in order to be able to help people like that, there are some things that are very important. That is, you have to be totally honest. You cannot play favorites. You have to do everything based solely on one thing, and that's the economic analysis. If things make sense, you can help them. If things don't make economic sense, you cannot help them. You have to work with these businesses to try to get them to where it does make, where their situation does make economic sense. So in order to get there, that's lots of research. But the research is not, I'm not an academic, so I don't do research that is, written out and long. And I mean, what I call it is actionable research. We have to do research that leads to action that helps the people. And that research, the time between the research and the action has to be as short as we can make it, or people get discouraged. And in places like Aceh and in places in the other countries I've been, they have been overrun with donors. And donors have come in and made all kinds of promises and very little results from those promises. So the big thing here is we can't make big promises. We've got to start small. We've got to build trust. We've got to do research that the people we're trying to help see as helping them. If I do the best thing in the world and I think it's helping someone, but he doesn't or she doesn't think I'm helping them, it doesn't matter. They're not going to do it. So there's a lot of selling, a lot of things going on to try to make sure the research we do is effective. And what kind of research? So let's take Aceh for one, because that's where you are. And you know Aceh more than I do. Is it okay? I'm hearing bells ring. Is everything okay? Can anybody hear me?
No problem.
Is anybody listening? No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so in Aceh, when I got there, I met with BRR because it was after the tsunami and they were trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
And BRR told me in my first meeting, we want you to do two things. And I said, what's that? And they said, we want you to do cocoa and we want you to do coffee. And I say, what do you mean you want me to do it? Want me to drink it? You want me to grow it? What do you want?
Yeah.
And they said, no, we want you to sell it. I said, great. Here's what I need. I need to know where the coffee farmers are, how many hectares each has, how old the trees are, what's the life of the tree? How much do they water? What kind of Arabica are they? What are they? Robusta? Are they Cafe Pana? BR said, hey, we don't know any of that. So just do cocoa. I said, I need the same thing for cocoa. They said, we don't know how to do that. We don't have that information. I said, then you're not talking about us doing anything until we get that data. So what I did was talk to I guess the guy's name was Contoro, and said, I need 3 or 4 months to go around to every single regency. Are they Kabubatan, I think? The Kabubatans, and meet with people, meet with your BOR representatives, meet with businesses, meet with associations, see what's there. So we can build, it sounds like a stupid word, but build an inventory of opportunities. And this is all research now. And so out of that comes what we called a business opportunity map. It showed the best opportunities that we could quickly get our hands on in every single regency. And from that, we gave that out to the International Chamber of Commerce in Jakarta. We sent it out to various chambers of commerce. And then I went to work. And I started going in and digging deeper. And I came out, yes, coffee's fine, but coffee is doing better than fish. Cocoa's fine, cocoa's not doing so well. Only a few buyers. But across the spectrum, the research, what I found in dealing with more than 1,000 fishermen, more than 300 coffee dealers, coffee growers, there's very few buyers. And this is not a racial presentation, okay? You never want a few buyers to control your output, because then you have no options. What appeared to be and proved to be true was that a collector system, mainly of Chinese from Medan and then tied to Singapore, were doing the buying of the fish. But they weren't paying anything for the fish, and they weren't demanding that the fish be competitive. All they cared about was getting fish to Medan, and it would be grade C, and you might get, I think at the time, Talbani, you can tell me if I'm wrong, it was about 8,000 rupees to the dollar. And so these guys were getting like $3 a pound for blue-eye tuna, $3 a pound for yellowfin, hardly anything for kapak mera. And so I went to work profiling, again, research, profiling all the fishermen in the 24 ports of Aceh and all the fish they caught, from the boat capacity to the weight, to the seasons, to the variety of fish, to how they kept them cold, what they did with them, how they handled them post-catching. And we found out.
Sorry, Mr. Gordon.
Yes.
Someone says, can you share your slides? Maybe you have it, or
My what?
slides.
No, I don't have any slides. I only knew about this on Thursday. So,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I thought it was gonna be later. So there's no slides.
Okay.
Another time, if it comes back, we can do that. Okay. But in any event, so we came up with this data, and we found out exactly when they caught the fish, how much they sold the fish for to the collectors, how they got it to Medan, what happened when it went to Medan, how it got to Singapore, what they got paid, how they got paid, and found out that that the system of collectors was not only buying the fish, they were helping the fishermen if the daughter got sick or a son got ill or the wife needed some help. This is standard collector stuff around the world. It's why Nestle used buyers or collectors in Ghana and the Congo to collect cocoa from people, because the companies wanted to say, we are not engaged in this kind of system, but the collectors are. And so the company never sees what the collectors do. Starbucks does the same thing. They use collectors in Aceh Tengah. In any event, finally, we developed profiles on every single fisherman, every single boat, every single port. And then I went to international fish buyers and I said, does this interest you? What do you need to make a decision about whether you'd like to come and look at these fish? And some of them would tell me, well, we need this kind of stuff. We need this. We need more about seasonality. We need more about how they keep the fish alive or how they kill it, when they kill it, and how they keep it cool and stuff like that. And we gradually structured those profiles so that of all things, we found an international buyer in Jakarta. But what made this international buyer best of all is that he had access to Japan, Europe, and the United States, the top 3 markets in the world. If you can get a product into Japan, you can get it into any country in the world. So I arranged for them to bring their executives to Aceh, and I took them around all the I guess to be the East Coast ports first. But that's not so easy, because now I got to go to the fishermen and I got to tell them, here come these fish buyers. And they're going to ask you lots of questions, and they're going to look at your fish. And they might say, that's a junky fish. We don't like that kind of fish. We're not going to buy it. You don't take care of it. Do not, Mr. Fisherman or Mrs. Fisherman, it was always Mr. Fisherman, do not get upset if a guy tells you that. He's only a buyer. All you have to do is say, why do you say that? What can we do to make it better? Because what we are trying to do now is kind of do like an opera presentation. This is all theater. I want to give the fishermen the very best opportunity to put their best foot forward, to show these international buyers that they want to do business and they care enough about doing business that they're willing to make changes if those changes fit with them culturally and economically. And I'm trying to tell the fish buyers, don't get upset at these people. You know, these are by and large not wealthy people, and they struggle, and none of them have bank accounts. It was amazing to me. My recollection of this, out of 100,000 fishermen, I think that we dealt with in the 24 ports, only one had a bank account, and that was Abu Bakar Talbani from Lampulo, right?
Correct.
Lampulo. And why don't you have bank accounts? Because if we have bank accounts, the government knows about us, and we don't want the government to know about us. So it was total distrust of the government by this industry. But that also went across farmers too. It went across the Sariwangi producers, the coconut oil producers, everything. Nobody had bank accounts because they didn't trust the government. And also they didn't have electricity for some of their boats because they didn't want to hook up, because they hooked up, that would have to mean they have to have interaction with the government. So it was a strange thing. But the bottom line of all this research is that these fishermen, these fish buyers went gaga. They went wild generally when they saw these fish. But there are a lot of things they didn't like, but still it was worth the effort. And then this is why I never went to work for AID, Dr. Raleigh, because AID came to me and they said, oh, good, Gordon, good. We're going to bring in some consultants and do training of these fishermen. I said, no, you're not. Why not? Who's going to train him? You're going to train him? I said, no, I'm not going to train him. The buyers train them, because consultants come in, they're not part of the action. They're not a principal. They don't have a stake in it. They'll tell you things that you don't need to know or that don't matter. A buyer is interested in how you can make money and how he can make money. And that raises the quality of the training to a degree that they showed them how to loin the fish, how to ice the fish, how to pack the fish, how quickly to put the fish on ice, at what temperature the fish had to be kept, so that these fishermen could go from getting grade C prices to grade A prices, which took the price from about $8,000, a dollar a kilo, up to almost $3 a kilo. Okay, so right there, the fishermen are going to make pretty good money given what they were making before. Now, question is, I couldn't sell the fishermen on doing this. I said, look at the money you're going to make. Look at the money you're going to make. And remember, most of these fishermen, they are not educated, but they are smart. They know weights, they know measures, they know how to do their business. And finally, I was with Abu Bakr arguing with him one night about why no one was doing this. He said, Gordon, we don't have, research. Is that someone's research assistant? Anyway, Abu Bakr says, we don't have the money to buy the styrofoam. We can't afford the $50 for the Victorinox knives they need. We don't have ice machines. We don't have storage areas. Okay, so then I went back and I did what I did in 1975. I did cash flow projections for Abu Bakr over 5 years, and I showed him what he could accumulate and how quickly we could wipe out the startup expenses by starting to sell to this one fish buyer. And this is only one aspect of this. So finally, I think Abu Bakr was the only one who took advantage of this out of all these hundreds of fishermen. But the issues are great because you had to have enough fish from each port to have the what do you call it? The floating ice automatic freeze drying processing ship come. And only at Lampulo did they have that. And so we couldn't get trucks and everything else because the roads are so bad. And again, this is 2006. So the roads still aren't all connected on the western side of Aceh, all the way down to Malabo. It used to take us, I think, 6 or 8 hours to get there. You can't take trucks like that over roads like that weigh a lot. So I only know that Abu Bakr did very well. But the point was, we can do this, but it's the research that's actionable. So that's the fish story, okay? And from the fish story, we went to cocoa, and
Sorry, who's that?
it's okay. We went into PD, and we met with the cocoa farmers there, and we were able to deal with the collectors too, because in this, oh, let me go back one thing. I forgot, two things I forgot to tell you about the fish. So I went to Medan to work with some fish. Some Chinese people met me, and they told me, they said, you think you have it all figured out, but you don't, Mr. Studebaker, because we own those boats. And if you stop selling to us, we will call the loans on those boats. So we never knew this. No fisherman ever told us the Chinese owned their boats. And we don't know how many. We didn't even know if the Chinese were telling us the truth. But it absolutely stopped us cold. So then I had to go back. And after I did these financial projections, I went to the banks in Aceh, and we actually did a luncheon for the banks. And we said, here's what's happening in fish. And we had slides then, and we showed them the money that could be made by the fishermen. The banks, they were dumbfounded. They did not understand the business of the fishermen. And when they saw the money, they said, we can make loans. So then we put together and I was there for about 1.5 years altogether, I think. We put together loan prospects and loan profiles and gave them to the banks. And we tried to get the banks to start a calling program to go call on the ports and call on the fishermen. I don't know how many did that, but from what I understand from Abu Bakr, fishermen are still fishing. So something happened and the Chinese did not call the loans on those boats. So as far as we know, not everybody's participating, but enough people are participating that some of this fish now is ending up in the United States, and it's ending up in Japan, and it's ending up in Europe. And that is only the beginning if we could put more things together. This is what we tried with cocoa. Cocoa is difficult because Ghana, Congo, they lock up the cocoa market. Brazil locks up the cocoa market. They have superb cocoa. But in PD, we dealt with the cocoa people, we dealt with the collectors, and we won the collectors over because what we said is, we're not trying to cut you out. What we are trying to do is get more of a share of the price that you sell it for, or not that you sell it for, of the real price coming into Aceh. so that you will have more money, your families will have more money, and maybe you can expand, maybe you can buy more land, or maybe you can save money. Well, we toured the cocoa factories in Medan, and oh, are they secretive? You can't even take pictures. I don't know if you guys ever have a chance, go to Medan and go, I think it's the Veteran Road, and go, I can give you the name later on, I think. I have some notes here of the two industrial factories or industrial parks there. One has 350 firms, 10% are foreign. And I think one of the biggest ones is a huge Japanese firm called Shiseido, which uses the oils of Aceh, the Sariwangi, the patchouli, the nutmeg, is it Atsiri, those oils to in their fragrance business and their soap business around the world. None of this would come about unless we did the research on the ground, talking to hundreds of people, going in, talking to those factories, letting the Chinese again tell me, Mr. Studebaker, do not work in essential oils. That is one of our best businesses. And we make a lot of money. And so we don't want you fooling around with that. Well, what did that tell me? That told me to fool around with it, because there was more money that they were making than the Aceh people were making. As an example, patchouli oil sells for $104 at that time, sold for $104 an ounce in the United States. In Aceh, the collectors were paying, hang on here, about $50 for a kilogram. Now think of that. Think of the difference. $104 an ounce versus $50 a kilo. You're talking thousands of dollars on 1 ounce, on one kilogram. So again, unless we did the research, and this is beyond the research, because research alone does nothing, for me anyway. But again, I like action. I like making things happen. So my research has to be something that we can make actionable. I had two really, really terrific Achenese guys, one Kiki or Raz Hakim, somebody named Hakim. I know his name, Kiki, I called him. He helped me so much in building the relationships you need to get the research, because you can't just pop out of space being a foreigner and start asking questions. And you never ask someone how much money they make. You never ask that, because that scares them. They think you're from the government. They think you want to tax them. So you ask them, how many trees do you have? How many cocoa trees? How many trees per hectare? How much is a yield of a tree? What's you get paid for a kilo? And you can, it's easy to compute the rough income they make, and you never have to ask them. And pretty soon you get a real idea from your research if these businesses can be made competitive enough to deal with cocoa buyers. And we brought in cocoa buyers, and they came from the Philippines, and one had, again, access to Europe and access to Japan and access to the US. They didn't really think the cocoa was of the highest quality, but they were willing to try to work with the cocoa farmers over time and get them the right kind of fertilizers, how to prune the cocoa trees, how to fertilize them, where to fertilize them, when to fertilize them. And a lot of these cocoa farmers were like the fishermen. They're not educated, but they know their business and they know what they're doing. So a little bit of help, and you talk their lingo, their kind of language, and they'll do those things. So this is the kind of research that we tried to do, and we tried to do it for everything from the nutmeg oil to the virgin coconut oil, even the tourism. There's so much opportunity for tourism. I don't know now. It's been 14 years since I have been in Aceh, so I don't know how much has changed. Okay, I stayed. I used to have assignments in Haiti. I was away from Haiti for 10 years. I went back to Haiti, and it absolutely blew my mind. They were worse than they were 10 years ago. It totally backslid, but that's because they had the earthquake, and then a lot of NGOs came in, and there's been no progress in Haiti now for 30 years. No progress. And it's so sad. It's so sad. I hope the progress for you guys, and you can tell me, is it satisfactory? Are you getting new investors? Are you getting growth? Is Sabang developing? Are these areas developing? Is Malabo changed? Is the coffee in Takanon getting any better income? I was just in Vietnam in January and February, just before COVID broke out. Actually, COVID broke out when we were in Hanoi, and we had to skedoodle, get out of there, because all the Chinese were flooding across the border into Hanoi, and the Vietnamese government closed down the borders and made the Chinese go back, saying, we're not trying to be racial here, but we've got to protect our people from the COVID. And so anyway, so we got out of there, but wow, they have done so well in their tourism. It is so organized. It is so wonderful. And if I were to say, do some research, my research would be send some people to Vietnam and do some of these tours, so you can see how they do it and what you see, and everything from the 300 indigenous tribes you have exposure to, to the ruins of 2,000 years ago, all this stuff. But it's so marvelous, and it's not expensive. And so again, for research, guys, try to put together some kind of group, or else have someone from Vietnam come and tell you what they did, and go through Aceh and give you ideas about what you might do. But it's good to see how these people handle foreign guests. And by the way, I know when I talked to Mohammed Siddiqui last night, he was drinking hang on,
Arabica.
Arabica coffee. And I told him I liked Robusta better, which we used to get in PD a lot. But in Vietnam, it's a lot of Robusta coffee because it's so low. They do have Arabica up high, but there aren't many high places. And this Robusta coffee is knock your socks off. It's fabulous. And we don't get much Robusta in the US, but now I'm ordering Vietnam coffee, which I can get through Amazon. More research. So, okay. Anybody have any questions? Anybody want to ask?
Actually, we schedule your time until 10. Until 10 minutes. Okay, maybe 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Okay,
more.
that's fine. That's fine. Okay. A lot of this research, when you do profiling, you're doing it because you want to help the right businesses. And if you're going to bring foreigners in, you have to do the research that they see the right businesses. So in the research, as you're going around, if I'm interviewing 232 coffee growers, I'm looking for who Kiki would say, Gordon, that guy's the leader, that woman's the leader, or a leader, because you're looking for people that you can influence, that have influence on others, and can talk the language that I cannot talk, and can try to win them over to what we're doing, and gives us much more, or many more opportunities to explain how we're trying to help and to answer the questions that they have. But as important as it is to profile the businesses so that we can attract the buyers, the good buyers, we have to qualify the buyers as much as we have to qualify the businesses. Because if you do not, and I've made this mistake, if I do not qualify those buyers and know that those buyers are 100% bona fide, qualified, with solid companies behind them and good reputations, the sleaziest people will come in. They'll be worse than Donald Trump. They will come in and they will lie and lie and lie. And all they will try to do is tie up your product without paying you anything. And then they go and try to sell your product. What we do, and it's very important, if you're going to have success in bringing in investment, you must bring in what we call principals only. And the principal is the person with the money. You don't need another consultant going blah, 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 blah. You need someone that says, I have money, money, money. because it's money that makes the deal. It's not talk that makes the deal. So again, I encourage you to if you guys are in development, Aceh must have so many opportunities. And I think there's opportunities all over Indonesia, but they're hard to put together. So you've got to find, in addition to the right businesses, your research has to lead you to identifying enough of the right businesses. Because if you're going to deal with Tesco in London, they don't want to buy 1,000 pounds of potatoes, 5,000 pounds of potatoes. They want to buy hundreds of thousands of pounds of potatoes. And they could do that in Pakistan because we had bigger farms and we had fewer owners. So we could, by research, identify who's producing what potatoes, change the potatoes that we had to, and guarantee quality control. This is a huge issue. That's why the fish was such a wonderful thing to see. And see this Ronnie Sutamajaya, I think is his name, the guy from the factory in the buyer in Jakarta that came. He could put all this together for these people, you know. And it's too bad that it wasn't more widespread. But maybe things have developed now, you know. But of course, everything's slow because of COVID, so we have to wait until COVID goes away. And the way we're looking in the United States, we are, even though the vaccine's here now, we're still not looking probably at anything beyond opening up earlier than September. So what's that? Almost 9 months from now. It may be sooner, but it won't. It'll never go back to what it was for some years. Anyway, and now's the time also for you guys to think about Aceh. That, you know, one time on some of our research, Talbani and I did some stuff. We went up a river. It's on the west side, wasn't it, Talbani? I think.
Yeah, West Aceh, Malabo, yes, correct.
Yeah,
Malabo.
we went up a river to see, is there river tourism here? You know, and there's wildlife, and there's fish, and there's villages, and that's so exciting to Westerners who haven't seen those kinds of places. You know, and I suspect there's all kinds of rock climbing tourism, maybe cave tourism, maybe scuba diving, all these things that could be put together in a different way than they're being put together now. But again, I'm talking 14 years ago. So maybe, was it 14? Yeah, 12 years ago. So maybe things have changed. Sabang looked to be good. Now, Tabani tells me that the Chinese are coming in and going to build a coal plant. We saw coal there. We profile coal.
All right.
Is that, but
yes,
the
correct.
problem,
Yes. Sinohydro, right, correct.
okay.
110 megawatt for the power plant.
Okay.
In Nagakaya, Western Aceh.
So
So far, right?
And that's cheap electricity for a lot of people. The issue with coal, of course, is the environment. And the other issue with coal is it's extractive. It's just like, I don't know, maybe Indonesians love Freeport McMoran, but I don't like Freeport McMoran because they go around and dig these huge open pits and they take out the copper and generally they leave. And so I prefer more or less extractive industries. But that's just a bias on my part. And you know, you got to take what you can get. And so you want things that work. And if that works, that's great. The Chinese built a port. When I was working in Sri Lanka, they built a port and they leased the port to the Sri Lankans. But then the Sri Lankans, the price was too high. They couldn't pay. So China just took the port. Now it's a Chinese port in Sri Lanka. They may end up doing the same thing east of Karachi. They're building a port there as well, which will connect the whole Chinese kind of off a spur of the Silk Road, come down the spine of Pakistan from China right to the port. And it also gives the Chinese more muscle in the Indian Ocean, which of course is of concern to us. And maybe you, I don't know. But anyway, so I don't like extractive, and I don't like the kind of investment that puts developing countries backs against the wall, because the more desperate your government gets for investment, they'll make bad deals just to get something going. And I really saw this in Guyana. There was Haiti is the poorest country in the world, I think, or the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Guyana is the second poorest. The Chinese, and it's 97%. This country, Guyana, is 97% virgin tropical forest. No palm plantations, no nothing. The forest is as it always has been, except the Chinese found that out. And they came down and started, what do you call it? I think we counterfeit logging, illegal logging, and destroying parts of the forest. And this forest, these trees are 300-400 years old. And they're so magnificent. And they would float them out at night and load them on their ships and take them to China. And I didn't know that until I sent a delegation of Guyanese to Guangzhou, and they came back and said, Gordon, it's all our logs. It's where they're going. And then China would attack Guyana for damaging its environment when it was the Chinese who were paying the money to have them damage the environment. So, but that's not just the Chinese. The U.S. has done its share of this stuff too. So big countries do what they want, and others have to pay. Let me say this: it is not just looking for big things either. You know, the sewing in Aceh, the embroidery work was great. The rattan work was great. So many things were just wonderful about Aceh. The nutmeg candy. Why didn't they export nutmeg candy? You know, it was fabulous. The lobsters were fabulous. And the fish farming was getting better, especially on the western side. I saw a lot of fish farming. I don't know if that's still growing or not. I'd be anxious to hear about it, because that's a commercial deal, and that would be a big boon to the economy. There was also then, in those days, the Koreans, I think, and the Taiwanese were coming into into Aceh's waters and fishing at night. Is that still happening? I don't know if that's still happening, but it led to me being attacked when I was helping fishermen, because my research showed that these fishermen were not catching a lot, not enough to damage the environment. But somebody sicked the World Conservation Fund or something on me. And they came to me and said, how can you help these fishermen? You've got to stop them from fishing. And I said, no, you don't understand. I said, let's let them make some money. Let's let them feed their families. Then we can talk to them about doing these kinds of things that you want to talk about. But until they realize the value of the fish, and it gives them more than just a survival life, they're not going to appreciate what you want. And we shouldn't try to do that. We shouldn't try to enforce the kinds of restrictions that limit their incomes until they have enough incomes that they can actually survive. We're almost there, Taliban, right?
Yeah, you still have 10 minutes left if you want.
Oh, okay. No, good. Okay. A problem with everything in Aceh was, as I found it, from everywhere, any kind of product was simply too few buyers. And in a place like Aceh, after the tsunami, when you're trying to rebuild, you've got a lot of donor money flooding in, but that tends to prop up people, which is good. But we needed to get more productive stuff going. And it is really hard to get productive stuff going when you don't have enough buyers to create price competition. If you know, and I'm not going to name the company, but one of the biggest coffee buyers would go into Aceh Tengah and come by and say, hey, Mr. Farmer, if you go organic, instead of giving you 18,000 a kilo, we'll give you 24,000 a kilo. What do I do? How do I go organic? Oh, well, it's easy. You stop fertilizing and pesticiding your coffee plant. But the guy above him isn't stopping. And out of 232 farmers, only one had more than 2 hectares. Everybody else 2 hectares. So you're surrounded by people who aren't going organic. At the same time, in between the coffee plants, you've got banana shade trees sometimes, you've got tomato plants, you got potato plants, you got pepper plants, you got eggplant plants, and they're fertilizing those. So this coffee really wasn't organic. But what the ultimate buyer was told was that it was organic, and the ultimate buyer didn't go there. They used collectors, but it was not organic. And then, and really, these farmers all told me this, and it's sad. At the end, after they've laid out their coffee to dry on the cement, the collector advised, I'm sorry, the price fell, and we can only give you the price we gave you for non-organic. And what did that mean? Not only did that mean they were getting the same price they got the year before, but by virtue of not fertilizing the plant directly and not spraying pesticide on it, pests went up, yield went down. So now they had less coffee at the same price. But then the company that bought that ultimately sold it as organic. So they made the spread. It's just like, if you go into Afghanistan and your research shows you that a couple of things, that they get the highest percentage of calories from bread than any other country in the world. You also find out that women are the last to eat, and pregnant women go along with the last women. But the bread is sold to Afghanistan as fortified with nutrients and vitamins. Well, we found out it wasn't. And so companies somehow trading to Pakistan, and Pakistan companies, and it wasn't government, trading to Afghanistan, were selling this flat bread that they make, that flour, as fortified, and it wasn't, and they were pocketing the difference. And so you have these people getting hollow calories, thinking they're getting calories, and everybody's got, the kind of, I don't know if you've seen it, the kind of hair that turns red when you have malnutrition. You've got these people running around, a lot of red hair, a lot of babies like that, and it's so sad. And we tried to bring it to everyone's attention, but nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody wanted to hear it. USA didn't want to hear it. Afghanistan government didn't want to hear it. Pakistan government said maybe, but we don't control those people. And so it was really a terrible, and the kinds of things that if you get to be a real poor country, you don't have a lot of options. As your income goes down, your options go down. So try to do the right research. Try to always be truthful with the people you're trying to help, because so many people have not been truthful with them and have built up big expectations. Talbani will quote this guy too. I remember when I first came to Aceh, and I had some American give a speech, and he said, we're going to have modern hospitals, modern roads, airports all around, modern schools, modern ports. Well, you don't have any, none of that came while I was there. I hope some have come since. But it just hyped up things. And you can't ever hype up things, because what you think will happen often doesn't happen, and it goes so much slower than you want it to go. And there's always setbacks, like the Chinese telling me they own the boats. Whoever thought the Chinese owned the boats? When I got to Sri Lanka and I worked with the fishermen there, I knew the Chinese owned the boats, because I started asking, who owns these boats? Oh, the Chinese do. So you got to watch all this stuff. And there's so many ways to cheat. We had to talk to the fishermen. Don't put rocks in the stomach of the fish. We had to talk to petroleum plant owner. Don't put pebbles in the bags. Same with coffee. Don't put pebbles in the bags. Don't cheat. You can cheat me. You can lie to me because I don't have the money. But before 1991, before the Soviet Union fell apart, everything in the world was a smaller world, because we could only trade in the Western world. Now money around the world can go anywhere. So it only goes to the very best places. And that's the point of profiling, is your research has to show you, or has to give you an indication that you have something that is competitive enough that you can say to someone, this is the best place in the world to put your money for this product at this time. And you can show them. But that's the only way you're going to get them there. And if you get them there and that isn't, and your profiles aren't the truth, they're going to leave. I once had hotel investors demand of me, when I was taking hotel investors around the 25 countries of the Caribbean, they would tell me, we will meet no government people, Gordon. If you expose us to government people, we will leave. Why? Why? Because government people lie. That's what they do. US, they lie. Canada, they lie. Russia, they lie. Everywhere they lie. And we're going to spend millions of dollars on developing a hotel when you show us the right land and that. And we don't want that land to be owned by anyone in the government. And so I had to tell the governments that. And they were so upset with me. I said, look, it's right. It's right. We don't want you, because we don't want your ministers to try to get involved in this. And we'll, I have local guys that can track the ownership of this land. Unless you've hidden it, we'll find it. And if you do that, I will never bring a hotel investor here again. I'll tell them to go somewhere else. So, this is all about flushing out everything. And again, when you're trying to get investors or trying to represent a business, the more questions an investor has to ask, the less likely he is or she is to come. You've got to figure out ahead of time, and you've got to build relationships. I never used to even email investors. I would always start with calls to the secretary and never get through. And then I would say, well, can I send a fax? Can I send a little fax here and tell you what I'm trying to do? Well, why not an email? Because emails are too easy to kill. You just push a button, it's gone. A fax, some secretary or some intake person has to take that and pass it to him or her. And so that worked. It may not work today, but it worked then. And only by talking and saying, well, let me send you this, see if you're interested, and I'm not trying to sell anything. If it's okay, fine. Maybe you know someone who might be interested. And all you're trying to do is, in your research, is find things that help you present what you're presenting as an advantage to who you're presenting it to. You can get this land for $18,000 a square meter versus in the Canary Islands at 50,000 a square meter, or you can get this cocoa for 6,000 a kilo or something. I don't have the prices now, but I did, and I could get them. But so it's just looking at things that win for both sides. And what I'd like to say is the whole point of my research is to find what I call wealth gaps in the value chain, so that I know that if Sariwangi goes from the tree, then into a bag of twigs and leaves, and then to a guy who builds a fire on a mound underneath it and steams it, and the Sariwangi oil comes out the exit pipe and down into water and goes through water into a can, a coffee can. And it separates because once it gets out of the, once you steam the oil with out of the Sariwangi, it goes into the pipe, and the pipe's cold and the water's cold. So the oil separates. Then you just pick up the oil off the surface. Then it goes from there to Medan. Medan is processed in this. Let's just a second. Let me see if I can find this thing. When you ask, Veteran Street in Medan, and
Belawan report, is that, Gordon? Belawan?
It's I don't know. I'm trying to find the name of the company. As we talk, I'll find it. But in any event, all it's processed again. Then it goes to
Belawan port.
Okay. Then it goes on to Singapore, where it's finally processed, and that's from where it starts to enter the global value chain. But it's gone through 3 or 4 places already. And so what we want to do, if I know that petroleum oil is getting $50 a kilo in Aceh Tengah or Aceh Sengal, I don't anyway, and it's getting $104 now, it's in New York. Well, somewhere in there's money, and we got to find out where that money is. So we got to find out how that product moves, and then we find out, as I start talking to buyers, that the problem with the oil coming out of Aceh is that they don't use electricity. Well, they won't use electricity because they have to be tied into a grid. If they're tied into a grid, the government knows how much electricity they're using. They don't want the government to know that. So instead of using electricity, they use wood. And I think I think they use like six square meters of wood a day for petroleum oil when they're harvesting. You think of the amount of wood. Someplace I went in, all the pine forest was cut up halfway up the mountains. But the problem with wood is wood burns hot and then it burns cold. The temperature variation from the heat source just hurts the quality of the oil. But still, Aceh can get a third tier price for their oil as opposed to a first tier price. We never did this research, and it should be done, is okay, to generate the same kind or the same amount of heat you now use to make your oil, except it would be consistent heat. What would it cost? And how much more could you sell your oil for? And then is that worth it? You know? And if it's worth it, then you let the government know what you're doing. But see, they're all afraid of the government taxing them. And it's because government doesn't do a very good job for them. It's like in Egypt. You know, Egypt is the worst. 85% of Egypt's economy is informal. That means their businesses, 85% of the businesses, pay no taxes, are officially off the books. The other 15% is owned by the military. And so when I was in Egypt, it's one of the worst, it's near the end, one of the worst assignments I ever had. They wanted me to try to get these businesses to start taking loans from banks. And I said, that's fine. I don't object to that, but it has to be a fair presentation. And they wouldn't let me do a fair presentation. They only wanted me to write a paper and not meet with businesses. So I couldn't ever deal with the businesses. And it was all about charging them at the bank rates, charging them microfinance rates to get them into the tax system. And I just said, no, I won't do that. I won't do that. It was like when I was in Iraq, Aid told me, Gordon, we want all these people to be in a banking system. You've got to electronically wire their money. I said, my research shows that they don't want to do that because they don't trust the government. Yeah, but the government needs the money. I said, well, you don't think the people do? So you know, you just be careful. And I don't know, does Aceh have a value-added tax? Does Indonesia have a value-added tax? Do you know? Okay. Well, anyway, let me think about anything else. Another thing, guys, is when you do your research, you've got to do the financial projections. You've got to do the financial modeling. Because one of the things that keeps people poor is they do not have enough money to accumulate funds. And so the whole purpose of my research is to say, I need to generate enough funds for these people at the end of the day, at the end of the assignment, or over the next 10 years, that they can begin to save money for their children, for their medical, for whatever.
Mr. Gordon, how about we
yes.
going to the question and answer section?
I would love to. I would
Okay.
love to.
Okay.
I'm sure they would love me too.
Okay, thank you for the great
Yeah, sure.
presentation, Mr. Studebaker. And you storied about how important the data is, the research that happened for practitioners, the opportunities for resources of the Aceh based on your experience and analysis working in Aceh, and investment access opportunities as well, and other else. And right now, we have questions and question section.
Okay.
We will open it, the first part for 3 questions, and Mr. Studebaker will answer it. And after that, we will open the second part, but I think we will adjust the third part with the time schedule we have. Okay? Okay, right now we open now for the first part with 3 questions. Who is gonna be asking the questions?
Okay, I have one question.
Oh yeah, please.
My question is like,
Dr. Iskandar, right?
no, it's Lamin.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. Just go on.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges or difficulties that you encountered in your researches? How are you able to tackle them? And also, what would be your advice or tips to young researchers today?
Maybe you can introduce yourself first.
I am Lamin Samura, studying economics.
Okay,
All right.
okay. So, Summer, is that it? Summer? Okay, okay. The difficulties you encounter in, first of all, in doing the research is having
How
the
how
kind of,
about sorry,
go
Mr.
ahead.
How about that? Oh, how about that is first question, and after that the second and the third. After that you can answer all the questions. How about that?
If I remember them, okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. This first question is challenges I face in
yeah.
research, right?
Because
What's the second?
because I'm worried about the time. It
Okay,
will take quite long.
okay. What's the second
The
second
second
question?
one is from who's gonna ask the question? The second one, please.
Sounds like a bad auction.
If
No,
they,
no one wants to bid.
no, they are thinking about it.
Okay.
All right. The second one, please.
if,
Yeah,
if there is not any, I think I have another one. Like,
you have another one.
yeah,
Okay. Okay, go on.
like
You have the second questions. Okay, go
yeah,
on.
like what would be your advice or tips to young researchers today?
Okay.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Okay. Are you students from where? Lamin, yeah. Lamin.
Yeah, Lamin.
From Africa or from where?
Yeah, from Gambia, Africa.
Gambia.
Oh, okay.
He's from Gambia.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
okay, that is the second question. And the third one, who is gonna?
Um,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Um, yes, sir. I have a
Yeah.
question. My name is Edward Nicholas. I'm also from Gambia.
All right. The Gambia is one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, talking about the research. Now, what challenges will someone face in terms of pandemic like the COVID-19 in doing such research on coffee profiling, and what strategies can be put in place in order to get successful information about the research on the profiling of
Can you do that one
the
question
cocoa
again?
or whatever business.
Okay, you said
Can I go again?
Yeah, the challenges with COVID, but then you went on to say if you're doing coffee or cocoa, what kind of challenge? What is that?
Yes, you get to do a research on the on coffee or cocoa rather.
In COVID. Is that it?
In pandemic like the COVID-19.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great questions.
Okay, yes, very good questions. We got three of them. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, you can now you can answer at once or maybe
Yeah,
each.
I can.
Yeah. Please.
First one.
Yeah.
Challenges faced in research. You face a number of challenges depending on how cooperative if the government wants to be, because if it's a non-democratic government, they'll try to stop you because they don't want you to free up or to help people that may give them an empowerment or feel empowered and they can become independent. So the governments can stop you. There are also people like in the case of the people that control much of the buying in Aceh, trying to stop me from asking questions of the Suriwangi people or the fishermen, because they don't want me to know the things that allow me to profile them because they feel their business will be hurt. So you run into those kinds of blockages. The best way to meet those challenges is to, one, I was lucky in Aceh because I had a great boss, okay? And when the government got wind that I was talking to people about coffee, the government told my boss that I better be careful because there's a certain company that owns the US Embassy. And if I don't be careful, they'll have me thrown out of the country. Okay. That was a challenge. Okay. So the point of that is stay below the radar. Don't be flashy about what you're doing. Keep it quiet. Keep it quiet until you can do enough research that what you unveil has people's support, not just your own support. You need to build support from different businesses when this is happening. You need to build support from the Talbanis and BRR and that kind of thing for what you're doing, okay? So you need to build alliances. And this is one of the things, this is a problem in a place like a rigid caste society. Like if you go to Pakistan, you'll see that the upper class doesn't want to really deal with the lower class. And if I were to use university students, as I tried once, to go and ask questions of particular farmers in the tribal lands, they came back, 50 students, no information, because they don't talk like the farmers talk. They don't want to talk like the farmers talk. They want to look down on the farmers. They want to say, Gordon needs this. How much do you make each year? It was awful. And it was a big setback. So it's about doing everything in the research that builds support from the people you are trying to help. And the way you build support is by thinking about how you're helping the people. That's what the research must do. It must be directed that way. And you can overcome those challenges. You may not overcome a challenge of a government if it really wants to stop you. That happened to me in Guyana in the very end. That was a communist country. And I finally got thrown out after 5 years, but it was okay because we made a lot of progress. Okay, now what would I advise young researchers? Okay, I think what I would advise young researchers is don't be afraid to break away from the way standard things are done. Now, this may not be in line with the professors who are teaching it, but if you're getting rules and regulations, like the World Bank teaches a certain way to do development, and I'm not knocking the World Bank because they do a lot of good things. But my experience with them is that they want to help all they can as long as they're taken care of. And I remember in Guyana, the World Bank sent a team down to me and they said, hey, we understand, Gordon, that you know all about investment in Guyana. I said, I do. And I said, and they said, will you tell us about it? I said, no. But I said, I'll take you to it and I'll show you what's going on. Their first question was, do those places have air conditioning? And I said, no. They said, we're not going. So young people, break out, think about how to cut through things. Think about how do you get to the meat of someone you're trying to help? What is the real problem? If you define the problem and get his agreement or her agreement on the problem, you can do the research. And all the research should be, you should never have a fixed conclusion you want to come to. You want to have a fixed goal. And the goal is, okay, Dr. Raleigh, you're a Sariwangi producer. And just, what's your biggest problem? If we did this, would this help you? If we got a different kind of wood that would burn constant, is that wood available? If we got a better pipe, if we got a better price, would that help you? How would we get a better price? What would you do? It's all about asking the right kind of questions. And it's also about the young people. Do not ask questions, have discussions with people, sit down and talk to them, and then do something for them. So don't make ever big promises, but say, okay, Dr. Raleigh, I understand. Listen, let me get back to you in a couple of days. Let me think about this. And then you come back and you never break a promise. If you break a promise, you just differentiated yourself to be below par. So they won't deal with you. And also try to get the families. In Aceh, at least the fishermen let me talk to their wives, okay? In Pakistan, the men won't let me talk to their wives and won't let me talk to their daughters. So we cannot get to them in the tribal lands. We had a wonderful deal where research showed that we could get 500 jobs for furniture factories and jewelry makers and paint store makers of women by training them according to what these people wanted. But we had to get them away from their families. But the women were seen as producers and contributing to the farm income. And so first of all, they wouldn't let me see them. Second of all, they said, well, if they come, if my daughter goes, you've got to pay me this much. We said, no, we can't do that. Well, then no deal. So you know, it's about, sometimes you run against obstacles you can't do anything about. They're culturally different from mine, and it's hard to break down. I tried students couldn't do it either. So sometimes you just get blocked, but move on, because don't get caught up trying to beat your head against a wall. There's lots of opportunities in development, and of course, COVID now, it merged a little bit into the third question. The challenges with COVID are overwhelming because, we don't know, nobody's traveling. I don't think AID is even sending people out on assignment now. I don't know though, but they're not sending many out because we cannot control whether we have it and we might infect someone. They can't control it because they might infect us. And even if you have your mask on and you're sitting outside, but you're talking to 30 people, you're probably okay. But are you going to be able to get 30 people together? In the US, they're telling us don't be indoors longer than 15 minutes in any one place. Don't go an hour without washing your hands. Wash your face continually. So all these things, it's almost impossible to do what we want to do in COVID. Number one, I can't get in a plane to go there. If I wanted to come and interview coffee farmers now, I'd have to take a sailboat probably by myself. I don't think I'd make it, but I would try. But so there's just certain obstacles you can't overcome. As a young person, the thing is, try to be creative. Try to figure out if you can do phones. If a lot of times you have phone connections, if you can do phones. But the problem with phones is, or doing it on the internet, you don't see the operation. And you cannot make judgments as a consultant unless you have firsthand observation. I have read so much, excuse the expression, so much crap about these reports that are all done because someone else wrote a report, so someone else rewrote it, and someone else rewrote it, and someone else rewrote it, that you don't have any firm grasp of what a business is or what a person is. You need to see people personally. You need to deal with them personally. And it does, in fact, hurt you a little bit because it's hard to do big scale stuff. But if you can get to the point where your research shows there's enough critical mass, enough of companies or certain things you're trying to help, that there's an association, you deal with the association. And they can maybe bring people in and then send you out. But I would never deal with an association unless I could deal with the members. Because if someone didn't expose me to the members, it meant that it's what I call a hierarchical structure, where these guys often get to the heads of the associations and they run them for themselves. And you need to get to the association members, because that's where you find out the information you need. In Egypt, they refused to let me meet with individuals. I could only meet with associations and only the directors. They always said, no, you don't want to meet with the members. No. It was terrible. It's the worst thing in the world. Does that answer the questions? Do we get there?
I think we get that.
How did I wander again?
Yeah. I think we get that. It's a great answer, Mr. Studbaker. And this is for the second section, but only for 2 questions because of the time. We still have 10 minutes left. Okay.
Is everybody still there?
Yeah,
Yes,
still there, but
of course.
but with mute voice. Okay. No worries. Okay. Who's gonna have the next question? Mr. Talbani, maybe you have a question with your old friend.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Professor Gordon, it's very tremendous presentation and very good and awesome thought that you have presentation for today in WRCP, World Class Research Program, which is the third WRC program for International Business Program. So as you see that the two students that you already asked for you from our international student from
Right.
Gambia, and other, we have like 8 countries right here. So that's why we call international
Okay.
WRC program. Okay, so just go forward, Mr. Gordon. As you said that you have ever told me that when we went to on site to see the potential, and Mr. Gordon is very, very good in profiling of the businesses, especially in Aceh at the time for tsunami relief, 2005, 2006. So what is the key, or what is the key performance indicator based on your point of view during the time that you did your research? I mean, like in Pakistan, Denmark, and Bangladesh, and so on and so forth, Tajikistan as well, compared to the Aceh. So what should, the researcher look at the most important things? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Listen, first of all,
okay.
can I
Just
answer
for
that?
the second one. Okay.
Okay, second one.
Just for the second one. Okay. Okay, who's gonna? That's great question from the Mr.
Great
Taufik.
question. Great
Yeah.
question.
And the second one for the last
Yes,
question.
me, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Muhammad Farhan Azhari.
All right.
And I'm an IBAP student.
Yeah.
Of 2019.
All right. Go on.
I want to ask about since the United Nations has already not put marijuana into dangerous narcotics anymore.
Yes.
So this will be a very big opportunity to develop hemp industry in Indonesia.
Yes, you're right.
And in Aceh as well. Because we saw that the hemp or marijuana development is kind of matched with the climate situation here. And this will be a very huge opportunity to develop. But it requires research before this industry to be started, right? But the issue is the Indonesian government, they don't give opportunity to even conducting the research on this. So, sir, what do you think about this issue? And as we can see, some countries in Southeast Asia has already started the research and now trying to develop this sector, such as like in Thailand or Malaysia, they already conduct the research. So, what do you think about this issue, sir?
Well, first of all, I love the question, but
Okay.
but I got to do number one first.
Yeah.
A hard question that Talbani gave me.
Okay. Just go on with this last section. Yeah.
Okay, but
Mr.
now,
Gordon.
okay, I think Talbani, the question is, how do we measure the results of the profiles? Are they good or are they bad? What are they supposed to accomplish? Is that really the question?
Yes. Okay. Right.
Okay. With the profile, the sole purpose of a profile is to make but honestly, is to make the people you are profiling look world-class competitive. Okay. And it doesn't mean they got to be number one in their field, but that there is potential for them to become competitive. And if you can do that, then the next benchmark is, are the profiles good enough to recruit investors to come, and do they come? That's the sole benchmark. Do the investors come? If good, now it's got to be good investors too. So you've got to qualify the investors. If good investors like Ronnie Sujujumaya from the fish company in Jakarta came and brought his executives to look at and meet with all these fishermen and to train them, our profile had accomplished the objective. Now, and this is where development often fails, Talabani, is if I wasn't able to stay there long enough to kind of wrap up the whole deal, because it'd take another year and a half, to get through things, to make it work. And this is always the problem. Not enough time. But the profiles in that case worked. The profiles across Central America, South America, and the Caribbean worked in getting hotel investors there. But we were helped because it was a time when the Caribbean was growing and there were lots of tax advantages, okay? So sometimes external things help the profiling. But if the profiling doesn't give you enough firms that you can present a case to someone larger that, hey, here is an opportunity. This is what these people make now, but you don't tell them what the price per pound is or per kilo. And what are you paying for your fish now? And if you could only pay that much fish, would you buy? Well, if the fish are what you say they are, we will. Well, they went gaga when they saw the quality of the big eye and the quality of the yellowfin and the quality of the kapak mera. And when they taught these guys how to loin the fish, this is a strange thing, Talmani. The profiles showed the fish, but again, they only knew at that time what they were catching, okay? The buyers. They didn't know how they were handling them. When they saw how they were handling them, they said they have to change. And if you and I, Talibani, were fishermen, and they gave us a knife and said, cut this fish for us, we can get anywhere from 46% of that fish up to like almost 60%, 58% of that fish if we loin it exactly right. And if you compute that over a year's time, that's a huge amount of money. So Ronnie used his fish buyers to come in and show these guys how. So the profiles got them here, and we can't get them to buy. But a person like me, and I'm not trying to say it's me, but a person like me has to stay around because Ronnie is used to cutting deals. These fishermen aren't used to cutting these kinds of deals. We had to work with Garuda. I think it was a Garuda that flew out of there. They'd never flown fish out of there before. We had to negotiate with them, figure out how we're going to pack this fish, how you take the air out of the bags. All these profiles help that. So the profile is good if it brings buyers. It may not close the buying, but that's a process because everything is still done by relationship, no matter what the internet does. These guys are not going to buy things unless they see the fish and see the fisherman.
Right.
Okay? Is that okay?
Yeah, very okay. Very okay. Got it.
Okay. Now to the ganja. The ganja. When I went to Guy Lewis, and I think Talbani, who was not in the Contoro, but who was head of the section that you worked in? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So he came with me, and we went to Guy Lewis, and so we're eating. Pretty sure everybody's laughing. It's a great time. We're eating these cookies and these things and fruit. And well, all the cookies and the breads have had ganja in it.
Right.
and so then I said, wow. I said, this stuff is licensed in Holland, maybe in Denmark, but for sure in Holland and other places we can ship it to. Well, okay, remember the company I was working for, I was a consultant to Chemonics. Chemonics was a consultant to AID. So do you remember Jonathan Talbani? He was my boss.
Yes.
So he went to AID.
Right.
He came back and he said, do you want to get me shot? He said, AID is going nuts.
Right.
But here's the thing. What I would do on that, hang on here. And this was Muhammad. What I would do is I would find out where the ganja is growing. Now, there's a process there. It's already going on in Guy Lewis. It was 14 years ago. It's 8 years. It's still going on. Is go down there and go to the major city there in Guy Lewis and go to these farmers associations, find out who's growing it. And then you got to get their trust because they're scared. Of course, I hope I'm not advising you to do something illegal. I don't want you to do anything illegal, okay? But find out who's growing it, how much they're growing it, what kind it is, what species it is, when you harvest, when you plant, how long it is from time you plant to time you harvest, how you fertilize, all this kind of stuff. And then, despite maybe what I thought was the Portuguese disdain for the Dutch, and I'm not a fan of the Dutch for development. Believe me, they abused the Caribbean terribly. But find through magazines, through the internet, somebody who's importing ganja into Holland. And then you got to be talking the number of farmers, the quantity, the species. If you have any users are saying the stuff is great, get that involved. You know what it's used for now, how it's sold. But you got to be careful because you don't want to give away too much here. That's also the tip about profiling. You want to seem like you're giving away the whole store, but you're keeping things to yourself that you need to for strategy. So and then if you're able to get 2 or 3 buyers to come and visit and taste the stuff and smoke the stuff or bake with the stuff, whatever they do with it, okay? Because it's also used for cancer treatment now. And by the way, in Canada, it's also legal, okay? So Canada is just like Holland now, or at least Vancouver, BC is, okay? Try to find buyers, but you've got to get something to find the buyers with. And that is, you've got to have profiles of who's growing it, maybe even what kind of soil is there, how long it's been growing, how long these guys have been farming it, so that the people who you're trying to get to come will have some idea that they're dealing with people that know what they're doing. It's not some American kid who just got out of college and said, I want to start a ganja farm because my grandfather has 20 acres. So does that make sense to you, Mohammed?
Yeah.
Are you awake?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I think it's kind of complicated to do this type of research here because the government, is really strict about these issues, I guess.
Is that a religious thing or is it a societal thing?
Both of it.
Okay. But supposedly the people in Gaia Lewis who are growing it and who were growing it and serving it to me 14 years ago or 8 years ago or 10 years ago, they're growing it. But I guess my point, and I should have mentioned this, I guess I didn't emphasize it enough. The reason you want the buyers to come and the reason you want to profile it is if the buyers come and they like it, then you say, hey, well, we can't sell it to you right now because we got a government deal here. But let me take these figures to the government and let me find somebody who's a little bit more progressive and see if there's a way around this, because this can bring money to our farmers and our people are not become druggers. It's going out of the country. I tried the same thing in northern Iraq, Mohammed. I kept seeing all over northern Iraq, I kept seeing grapes, okay? And these were grapes that in some cases were cut low to the ground so that they were very strong grapes, strong flavored and not blown over by the wind. And I kept seeing this. And every city I went in, I want to ask a question. But in every city, the way the cities are set up in northern Iraq, you have to meet with the imam. So I have to ask these questions of the imam. And so I'm going around and the imams are all telling me, no, there's no wine here. No wine, no grapes. No, we all use just in the market. Finally, I'm in a little town called Tawila, which is on the border with Iran. And we're way up in the mountains. And all the way up, Mohammed, are these grapes. I said, they can't be selling these just in the markets. And right next to them is Turkey. Turkey makes some of the best wine in the world, and this is in the same climate belt. So I asked the imam, and there's always a bunch of people around the imam, and then there's an audience behind me, and hundreds of people in these meetings. And I'm saying, I don't know what you're on or whatever I call it, Mr. Imam. I forget. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I just didn't know. I see a lot of grapes here. What do you do with those grapes? Does anybody make wine? Oh, no, Mr. Studebaker. And these people behind the imam started to laugh. They started to go like this, funny. So then I knew I had the wine. So then after the meeting, I walked out And the man came up and snickered to me again. The man behind me said, "Would you like some wine, Mr. Studebaker?" And I said, "Well," I said, "of course I would. Who wouldn't? You know, especially if you've made it." He said, "Well, my friend made it. It's very good." I said, "I'm sure it is." So then I'm walking down this market, and this man comes up behind me, Mohammed, and gives me a bag. It's a gallon of wine. All my friends wanted to share it. And I said, "No, because you wouldn't believe me, but I'm not sharing this because it's so good." In any event, then I talked to the man. I said, "I'm not trying to get you to make wine. What I am trying to say to you is that you're very poor now, and you're making wine at home, and fine, just like Italians do. But we might be able to sell the grapes to people in Turkey who will make the wine." And he said, "I don't think we can do that." So it's kind of the same story there with the grapes that you have with the ganja. No, but you need to fish around and find out who's doing this, and that's how your research starts. Your first step, in my view, is if you can finagle the university to pay for you to go to Gaia Luz on an expedition, a research trip for 3 days or 4 days, and fish around and maybe Talbani, does BRR still exist?
No, it's already done in 2009.
Okay. Are there any regional development offices around Aceh like there were with B?
Like Bapeda and industrial and also forestry as well, plantation officer.
If you could get the Bapeda or someone like that that's friendly and open, because anybody that's down there knows there's ganja there. Okay, because they were serving it in the restaurant. They were packing it in. It's the best lunch I ever had. I'm kidding. But I don't remember it. No. Anyway, so that's how you start. You've got to find someone who's doing this. Aside from that, it's all conjecture. And unless you find someone who's doing it, you could do, "Oh, well, if we had research, we could do this. This is what ganja sells on the market." It's too theoretical. If you found a concrete example, and you don't have to reveal to whoever you start peddling this data to, who's doing it, where it is. That's your secret, and you've got to protect the growers. But I really think that there's a potential for huge profit of ganja in Aceh, especially with the world opening up and it becoming a cancer treatment, a pain treatment, an anxiety treatment, and you've got it legalized in Vancouver, and you've got it legalized in Holland. There's probably some other places that have legalized it. And also, it is a Turkey. There's a place in Turkey that grows most of the opioids that are sold to pharmaceuticals in the world. And Turkey is an Islamic country. Also, I believe it's Madagascar, grows all the poppies, many of the poppies that are legally sold to pharmaceutical companies. I tried the same thing, Mohammed, in Afghanistan. The poppies, why don't we legalize this? These farmers, they can make some money, sell it to the pharmaceuticals like Madagascar sells it to the pharmaceuticals. But the pharmaceuticals didn't want that because it has a chance of lowering the price. And if it lowers the price, because there's a flood of it, then their margins go down, as well as it could interject quality control problems. So anyway, I mean, that's the best I can do. But if I were there with you, believe me, I would go down to Gaia Luz and I'd fish, and I'd talk to people and find it,
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that maybe that's a fantasy, but that's what I would do. And then again, USAID is not involved. So USAID, U.S. government's scared to death of drugs. I don't know why they are. If we legalize marijuana in this country, we'd get rid of the deficit that Trump's created, just from the tax revenue. That's another way to present it too, Mohammed. If you actually found some and you got buyers who came in, or even if you didn't get buyers, even if you sent your profiles properly disguised to people who were importing it into Holland and said, we have this much, we have this much, we have this much. Can you tell me what this is worth to you, if it's of a quality that you would like, and how we, and how we might arrange to get it there? but first of all, assume if you buy it, you might then have some figures to take to the government and say, look, we can make this legal. And instead of Aceh begging for money from Jakarta, we can raise our own money. Or actually, does Jakarta give Aceh money, or does Aceh give Jakarta money?
Yeah, we have like win-win share oil and gas profit sharing.
Okay. And of course, Jakarta would be mad if you guys had your own income came from ganja.
Actually, there's some addition. The Parliament of the Commission 6 of the we call the Parliament of Indonesia, DPRI. His name is Rafli, one of the Justice Party Parliament, saying that he endorsed and he like to campaign as well for the ganja to be medical, pharmacy, something like that.
Well, okay, Talbani, that's an excellent point. And Mohammed, listen to this now, because what Talbani just said is a hint. It's a big hint. Go down there and look, find out where it is, find out who it is, start peddling it to the government of Aceh or to this congressman. Try to find a way to get to him. Try to find someone who can intercede. It's a medical deal. We can really help our medical industry, our hospitals and stuff, by getting this to them and by certifying it and having an inspection system. And then that just leads you down the right road. It's a long process. Nothing's going to happen quick on this.
Right.
All right. Okay. Maybe it's. I think it's the time is over for Q&A, right? It's a great discussion. But unfortunately, we need to end up it. But of course, we can discuss after this, right?
Yes, of course. Yes.
And thank you very much for Mr. Studbaker for the great discussion. It was very useful knowledge coming from you. Yeah. And I'm gonna give this back to the committee, but before that, I end these greetings with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Of course, here, please, the committee. Okay.
Okay. Can I say something, Talbani? Can I interject something now?
Sure.
I want to say, first of all, Talbani, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Raleigh, thank you for moderating. Mohammed Sadi, however you say it, Sid Key, thank you very much for your help. Students, thank you for listening. I hope I didn't bore you too much. And anytime, Talbani, if this works, and I can be of assistance, I would welcome that opportunity. But just thank you so much for your attention. And now go home and go to sleep. I'm going to go to sleep pretty quick.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gordon. I appreciate it for tremendous, awesome speakers.
Yeah, keep contact.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you very much.
75%.
Oh, hey, I have it. Is this right? Isn't it, Talwani? I think it's Sampai Jumpa Nante. See you. Does that see you soon?
Was that?
No.
No. What's that mean?
Sampai jumpa. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, correct. Sampai jumpa.
Yes, sampai jumpa. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Masalama. Okay.
Before that, it's time for photo session. So please turn on your camera.
Oh yeah.
Ready.
The photo session. All right.
I'm to leave now. I'm to hit leave.
No, you have to be here.
No.
Because you are the main speaker, right?
Be ready, guys.
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Okay. Next slide. 1, 2, 3. And the last one. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah. And after this, what? What's some speech from the committee?
Yes, sir. We have the last agenda is the election.
The last some speech. Okay. Just go on.
Well, thank you so much to Dr. Rolly that led the talk show very well, and also thank you so much for sharing it to us, our speakers, Dr. Mr. Gordon Studbacher, and we have a really great time listening to the talk show, and we hope it will so useful for us.
I hope it's useful for you too. I hope it is.
Thank you so much, sir. The last
Okay.
agenda is the election of President of World Class Research Program 2020. We will be giving us shares for the President of WCRP, and the shares will be given out by Mr. Talbani. To Mr. Talbani, are welcome to stand.
This is the ceremony, Mr. Gordon.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
I'm happy.
Yeah. Are you sleepy?
No. I have enough coffee.
All
I get so excited doing these things.
Yeah, okay. You should come back here, actually. Aceh, okay?
I'd love to. I'd love to.
So where is Mr. Talbani?
Mr. Tabani is leading the ceremony, sir, right now.
Right now.
Uh,
Where is he? Where is he?
Hey, you guys, look at the pictures behind my wall. Those pictures are from
Who's that?
Afghanistan.
Whose picture that?
The 4 pictures? Or those?
Yeah.
Those pictures are when I was in Afghanistan.
Oh.
This is actually a flour mill. They're grinding flour with a rock stone with water under a water wheel, just as they did in Christ's time.
Why do you put those things on the wall?
Oh, I thought the pictures were neat. And listen, okay, I'm sorry. Am I interrupting? I don't want to interrupt.
Okay. Great. This is for Bakar Diba. He comes as president of WRC program or classes program for 1 year.
Oh.
So from start today, you will be deserved to arrange every activities WRCP program or class research program. So Bakari, maybe you have like one speech a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel humbled and I'm grateful for being selected as the president of this club. Okay. So I got to do my utmost best to uphold the glory and name of this institution and the program itself. So I count on the support of God.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay.
Congratulations. Are you from Gambia?
Yes, Gambia.
Oh, yeah, the only 2 countries I worked in Africa were Nigeria and Egypt.
Yeah.
And Nigeria, they used to say, "What can we do about corruption?" I said, "Shoot your government. What else can you do?"
Okay, brother.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr.
Dr. Raleigh.
Gordon. Mr.
Hope I see you in person. And
all right.
I hope, okay.
Okay.
See you. We're doing elbow to elbow.
All right. Okay. See ya, everyone.
See you. Okay.
Thank you.
I can hit leave. Okay, I'm gonna hit leave.
Yeah.
Have a happy New Year. Talbani, thank you for having me on this important anniversary too.
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna leave
Thank
it.
you. Oh, me too. I left.
Okay.
I'm gone.
Assalamualaikum.
To remind you again, don't forget to fill the attendance list. We provide the link through the chat rooms.
Tadi ada spot lagi nih yang punya.
Ada.
Tadi ada spot lagi yang punya usia.
Ada. Once again, congratulations to President of WCRP Bakari S. Diba and Vice President of WCRP as Muhammad Farhan. And finally, we come to the end of the event. A big thanks to our speaker and our moderator and the committee, the audience who participate in all the series of our event solemnity. May the event which we have to solve is beneficial for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Getina Marcia as the master of ceremony. Even guiding this event, I made a mistake or offend someone here. I do apologize. Thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you also for sponsorship and all the contributor, especially for Pak Iskandar Majid, Data, KBA, and all of you.
Once again, to remind you, don't forget to fill the attendance list. We provide the link through the chat rooms. Ulang balik berarti.
We can hear you. You are muted.
And finally, we come to the end of the event. A big thanks to our speaker, our moderator, to all sponsor, the audience, and the lecturer. Thank you also to Dean and Vice Dean, the committee, and the audience who participate in all of the series of our event. May the event which we have to solve is beneficial for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Giraina Marsha as the Master of Ceremony. If I'm guiding this event, I made a mistake or offend someone here, I do apologize. Thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for all, and committee especially, and moderator, MC as well. And thank you for all the contributors, sponsorship, and rector, vice dean, and also lecturers, and all of the institutions that participate and supported the programs. And we hope we can meet again next year. May Allah bless you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much to Mr. Tabani Farlian.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Thank you,
wabarakatuh.
sir. If you're done to fill the attendance list, you can leave now. Buat IBEP 2019, kalau bisa jangan keluar dulu, jangan leave dulu. Kita bakal ada photo session. Kan sini sih. To all members of IBEP 2019, please don't leave the Zoom meeting because we have a photo session. You can turn on your video right now and don't forget to use a background.
Clara, open kamera.
Gak punya PDH gimana ya?
Pakai baju merah aja. Atau pakai jabak hitam aja.
Ya udah sebentar ya. Gak bisa pakai jubah merah boleh.
Hello everyone, please turn on your camera. Abu Ali, Muhammad Izatul Ula.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, long time without seeing you.
Siapa nih?
Kiki, ayo lagi mana Kiki nih?
Guys, someone send the attendance.
Attendance. Pakai background nggak? Kalau bisa pakai. Bentar ya. Komiti kosong tuh. Aku pakai. Gepus ki mau gaya apa ya? Aku gaya tapi tangan aku cuma 2, nanti aku cekrek.
Wait ya.
Attendance.
Attendance-nya Lamin nggak bisa. We will send you Lamin.
In the group.
In the group.
Rama, where is Isha? Aisyah.
Tadi bilang tunggu ya gitu dia bilang. Oke, dah yuk.
She said she have an exam. She's doing exam.
Oh yeah.
It's okay, it's okay.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Siapa itu? Aduh, siapa sih? Iza mana lagi? Ya Tuhan, ya.
Udah.
Dihitung ya.
1, 2, 3. Lagi ya. Gaya lain, gaya bebas. 1, 2, 3.
Kamera pakai kan?
Ya cuma satu slide.
Suruh hitungan ya.
Hitung.
Oke, bahasa Indonesia. Lamin, can you handle with Indonesian number?
What? Of course, I can do that. That is simple, you know. Okay,
You count from 1 to 3.
Margari, congrats.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
Have a nice day.
Okay.
Katrina.
Why?
Ayam penyet ada?
Ayam penyet ada.
Ayam penyet ada. Do you want ayam penyet?
Iya.
Rama, we have same taste. I love ayam penyet so much.
Really?
Okay, bye.
Miss you all.